All of the changes that President Trump is making to our government and our democracy are shocking, but should not come as a surprise. Remember this? Almost all of it, from the attacks on abortion rights to the gutting of the civil service to the dismantling of the Department of Education, it was all spelled out very clearly in Project 2025.
They're calling it a wish list. But what if this isn't just a wish? What if it's a blueprint? A 900-page battle plan for a future America, hidden in plain sight, that the mainstream media is barely scratching the surface of. As you know, Donald Trump has publicly distanced himself from it. The connections, the personnel, and the chilling similarities to recent actions are undeniable. But we're about to pull back the curtain on Project 2025 and reveal what the media isn't telling you. So what is this Project 2025? Project 2025 is the brainchild of the Heritage Foundation, a prominent right-wing think tank based in Washington. This isn't their first time crafting policy blueprints for Republican administrations. They've been doing it since 1981, when Ronald Reagan was entering the White House, and continued through subsequent presidential elections, including Trump's first victory in 2016. It's a common practice for think tanks across the political spectrum to offer policy suggestions to future governments. The Heritage Foundation has historically boasted a high success rate in seeing its proposals adopted by Republican presidencies. During Trump's first term, the think tank claimed that nearly two-thirds of its recommendations were put into action. The latest news of Project 2025 was released in April 2023, but it didn't gain widespread attention until the intense heat of the presidential campaign. It was then that Democratic opposition to the document escalated, leading to the formation of a Stop Project 2025 task force and even a tip line to gather information on Heritage's activities. The project became a frequent topic in interviews and speeches by Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign and its allies. Trump's stance and Project 2025's authors. Despite the strong connection, Donald Trump began to actively push away from the document in July 2024. He stated on his social media platform, Truth Social, "I know nothing about Project 2025. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal." However, many individuals who contributed to Project 2025, including its former director Paul Dans, who served as Chief of Staff at the Office of Personnel Management under Trump, have been nominated for or have secured key government positions. For example, Russell Vought, a self-described Christian nationalist who authored a crucial chapter in the document, was confirmed by the Senate to lead the Office of Budget Management, overseeing the vast federal budget. Vought was also put in charge of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency the Trump administration has indicated it wants to dismantle. Other Project 2025 authors who have been nominated to government roles include CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Brendan Carr for the Federal Communications Commission, Tom Homan as Trump's border czar, Paul Atkins for the Securities and Exchange Commission, and trade advisor Peter Navarro. Over 100 conservative organizations are said to have contributed to the document, signaling their potential influence in Washington. Core principles and key policy proposals. Project 2025 is built around four central policy aims. Firstly, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life. This emphasizes traditional family structures and values. Secondly, dismantle the administrative state. This aims to significantly reduce the power and scope of federal agencies. Thirdly, defend the nation's sovereignty and borders. This focuses on strong national borders and a more nationalistic approach to international relations. Next is about securing God-given individual rights to live freely. This highlights individual liberties, often framed within a religious context. Many of Project 2025's proposals have already mirrored or inspired executive orders issued by Trump, though it's important to note that some of these ideas also appear in other Republican policy documents and Trump's own campaign manifesto. Agenda 47. Reshaping Government, a Unified Presidency. A cornerstone of Project 2025 is the controversial concept of unitary executive theory. This proposes placing the entire federal bureaucracy, including independent agencies like the Department of Justice under direct presidential control. In essence, it would streamline decision-making, allowing the president to implement policies directly across various sectors. The document also advocates for eliminating job protections for thousands of government employees, opening the door for them to be replaced by political appointees. This move is seen as a way to ensure loyalty and align the bureaucracy with the president's agenda. Project 2025 doesn't shy away from strong criticism of existing institutions. It labels the FBI a bloated, arrogant, increasingly lawless organization, and calls for drastic overhauls of the agency and several others, along with the complete elimination of the Department of Education. Early in his administration, Trump moved to eliminate job protections for career civil servants and freeze federal spending. He also established the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, an unofficial outside team advising him with broad authority to cut billions in federal spending. These actions align broadly with Project 2025's vision of significantly reducing the size and scope of the federal government. Abortion and family, a conservative social vision. Abortion is a highly sensitive topic, and Project 2025 addresses it extensively, with approximately 200 mentions. While the document does not call for an outright nationwide abortion ban, and Trump has stated he would not sign such a law, it proposes several significant restrictions. These include withdrawing the abortion pill mifepristone from the market and using existing but rarely enforced laws to prevent the drug from being sent through the mail. The document also suggests new data collection efforts related to abortion and broadly recommends that the Department of Health and Human Services maintain a biblically based, social science-reinforced definition of marriage and family. This stands in contrast to Trump's general stance that abortion laws should primarily be left to individual states. However, during confirmation hearings, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump's nominee for health secretary, indicated that the president had instructed him to review the safety of mifepristone, leaving open the possibility of further regulation. Trump also issued an executive order to prevent federal funds from being used for abortion, a move detailed in Project 2025. Immigration, enforcement, and reorganization. Increased funding for a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border, a signature Trump proposal from 2016, is featured in Project 2025. However, Trump's most prominent immigration policy, the pledge to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, is not detailed in the document. Project 2025 does include language advocating for Trump to thoroughly enforce immigration laws. In its main chapter on immigration, the document suggests dismantling the Department of Homeland Security and merging it with other immigration enforcement units, creating a much larger and more powerful border policing operation. Other proposals include eliminating visa categories for victims of crime and human trafficking, increasing fees for immigrants, and fast-tracking applications for migrants who pay a premium. Yet it's mass deportations, not bureaucratic restructuring or visa changes, that have been central to Trump's immigration pitch to voters. On this front, his administration appears ready to go even further than Project 2025's suggestions. Energy, climate, and trade. Drill, baby, drill. Energy policy is a significant area of alignment between Trump and Project 2025, summarized by one of Trump's campaign slogans, "Drill, baby, drill." The administration aims to boost fossil fuel production and has already withdrawn the U.S. from the Paris Agreement on climate change, which seeks to limit emissions and global warming. Project 2025 proposes slashing federal funding for renewable energy research and investment and calls for the next president to stop the war on oil and natural gas, ideas enthusiastically embraced by the Trump campaign. On trade, the document presents two competing visions, one favoring free trade and another supporting tariffs. Trump has clearly sided with the latter, announcing import taxes targeting Canada, Mexico, and China. Project 2025's economic advisors also suggest that a second Trump administration should cut corporate and income taxes, abolish the Federal Reserve, and even consider a return to a gold-backed currency. While Trump has commented on some of these ideas, tariffs have dominated the economic discussions in the early days of his administration. Education, tech, and DEI, cracking down on woke ideology. Almost immediately after taking office, Trump moved to end diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs, and decreed that government departments would recognize only 2 genders. These actions are largely consistent with Project 2025, which targets DEI and gender terminology as part of a broader effort to combat woke ideology. The document also advocates for greater school choice, which essentially means subsidizing religious and private schools with public funds. This was also the subject of an early Trump executive order. Furthermore, Project 2025 calls for abolishing the Department of Education, another idea Trump has signaled he supports. In other proposals, Project 2025 suggests banning pornography and shutting down tech and telecommunications companies that allow access to adult content. This has not yet been a focus of the new administration, which has garnered support from several top tech industry leaders. Trump's views on the tech industry have varied and do not appear to be primarily driven by concerns about sexual content. Now, this is what is called a detailed blueprint of a potential future for American governance and society. But how is it possible that Trump doesn't cause any controversy? Let us know in the comments what you think of this proposal, and if you want to stay on top of this, smash that like and subscribe button.